Okay, everybody, let's get to it here on a Thursday before Easter, Holy Week, all of that. Let's get to it. Let's talk about major markets right now. Pretty flat relative to the last week or two. Nasdaq's up about 35. S&P a little bit better, about 20. What do we got? S&P's up 28. 30. Nice. Anyway, what is it, folks? What's going on for a Thursday? Sorry about the lateness. Just having issues getting started right properly. Couldn't get things lined up, but that's fine. We just need to really figure out what's going on. What's going to happen after this week? Is the bottom in? We talked about that last session on Tuesday, and really looking at everything on the weekly basis. That's it. I don't think even the daily matters. We need to see weekly bars now, and that's going to give us the larger direction. Yep. It's just, look, narrative is going to remain confusing, and you see the volatility. I mean, it's still, even today, we've still had some 100-point, 30-second moves. NASDAQ will be up 100 in less than, 30 seconds, 45 seconds. 2 minutes later, it's back down 100. That's where we are. And I'm going to have to say something. Personally, okay, it's probably the least amount of trading that I have done in 4 years. And I find myself wanting to get back into it, but the opportunities still are mostly on the downside or day trading until we can resolve what happened over the last month, 2 months max. Um, that's it. It feels kind of strange, actually, because I know that unless I'm going to burn some serious hours in front of the screen, trying to go in long, heavy at this moment is premature. That's just a bigger strategic thought. We've come a long way. Really amazing. You think about it. It was like the crazy thing is, it just feels like it was just Christmas. Now we're Easter. And what have we done? Had phenomenal last quarter of last year, right into the end of the year, early January. And then the first quarter of this year was probably the antithesis, if not more so. Almost like a 2x inverse. And so now that whole focus of hopium from last quarter, completely gone, eviscerated. If we're talking crypto, forget about it. I mean, crypto is, has got everything hinged on Bitcoin trying to survive this 85K situation. And weekly basis for Bitcoin looks actually better than the major markets, but we need to get to Sunday for Bitcoin. It's a major deal. Like the major markets themselves, we're still trying to shake out the last 2 months. Yeah, guys, a lot of people are asking me, what do I personally think of the movement from the last 2 weeks? Last week was extraordinary. Major markets going up 2,000 points, down 2,000. I think it's a sign of the times. I think we are in, if that wasn't capitulation, then what the hell is it? If last week, if you're, doing like the 4,000 point range in a day or a 24-hour space for NASDAQ, up 1,000, down another 1,000, back up 2. To me, that's just hyper environment at major numbers, no less. Bitcoin, not as crazy, but the big flush bar, 96 down to 78, pretty big deal. No follow through, and I think that's the real point here. We're going into Easter tomorrow. No trading tomorrow. Market holiday, which is why I'm surprised. We should see a light day today, and we should see NASDAQ finish up. I mean, it was down. Now we're up 65, 70. We should be up like 200, guys. Let's see if we got anything on that. They tried to throw it down a couple times this morning. I know, I was one of them. But nothing yet. So let's buckle up. What's going on, everybody? You guys let me know what you want to look at. I'm willing to dive into crypto today. Let's keep it loose. It's a Thursday. I am today's coffee number 3. Has to be. It's just too chill of a day. So I got to bring a little energy to the show, and let's get into some markets. I'm happy to kick off with Bitcoin here because we do have probably some of the biggest things to talk about in Bitcoin in months, and it only comes around a few times a year, is our trusty weekly dot here trying to develop. So we're going to take that to Sunday. This has to be a bullish close. So no bearish bar here. By Sunday, really need to see that thing close above 83,000. That would be best. I would even say maybe like 84 or even higher from here. That all of that would be constructive. But when we go back and look at it, it just, take a look at the last 8 weeks has been a real struggle to clear up here above 85. But this gives me some insight right there, yellow dot right there for this week related to the prior HSI signal is a really critical first step. And then the other thing that let me bring this back over here. The other part to what needs to happen before we can expect any acceleration. And again, I haven't been looking for acceleration in Bitcoin, guys. I'm looking for stabilization, development, then get me to a point where something like that can happen. Okay, get above the 50 level after a nice stabilization. I'd say we're there, price wise at the levels. Remember 76.5, that was the level we've talked about since declaring that Bitcoin needed a retracement back in January. And this is the first dot. So if you're looking at Bitcoin, you want definitive numbers on what needs to happen from there. Well, 83,000. It's really 83,088, 83.1, whatever. Keep that in your brain. Okay, 83,000. That has to be it. And then we need to see some green candles. Something's got to change here. Monthly is another one where just be mindful. Okay, we're likely in this other, just giving you guys the monthly perspective here. Okay, what has developed so far? We know we hit the big numbers, 102.5. This is Bitcoin. And we had the reaction. I would say that big candle back in February, that's your reaction bar. The follow-through bar the next month for March was so-so. And here we are in April trying to stabilize, turn around. One second. Great. We're roughly like 4 months into this, guys. And last time we did this was last summer, spring summer peak here. That was May. And then you had a couple of sideways to down, but no more than like 4 or 5 months. So what I'm getting at is this has to be it. In a real concrete way, by the end of the month, what happened at 76K has to be the harmonic event to finish off the crab pattern, 76.5, and then go back and finish the type 2. I'm not saying that it's over in terms of saying you can, thinking Bitcoin's going to just start raging back higher. I'm just talking about that kind of a segment. From 76.5, it's 89,665, 667. Call it 89.7. Call it 90,000, something like that. But that's the retest. Still from here, it's just we could spend more weeks down here at 85 or 83, even back to 80 before that's realized. Not in a rush. And I would say even like this weekend, if we can get put together a few bullish candles, guys, and actually make that kind of progress, where amplified starts to tick up and breaks into some new highs, it's a big deal. What the whole basing formation from the last 4 weeks, you have a number of multiple technical events have unfolded in a nice way that are constructive. First of all, you have the initial low, a rebound, and then you come back with a nominal kind of a shakeout low, and you see that it created a really nice divergence on HSI readings there, and there, like even a tertiary reading. And then HSI confirmed with amplified. All of those from there to there, important divergence setup, and then a secondary reading. So it's great in terms of having these readings, but now you have to seriously prove itself in terms of price. You have all the conditions you want to see. Amplified, if that turns up, and that will only turn up with probably 2 more green days and a close above 85, 86K. But if it does, then we see that continuation follow through. Finally, probably for the first time all year. All year. I'm not there yet, though. We're super close. Someone asked me recently about what I thought about Bitcoin, especially since right back here we were like day 30, and I was saying back here second week of March, I was like, okay, guys, that's probably about it. We're day 1. We can start looking at things. Well, yeah, we are 30 days from that low, that initial 76.5 test. 30 bars is there. We've retested. We've done some confirmation here. Now we're consider the new reaction up phase has begun, but it has to go now. No rolling over, no serious breakdown under 80K with all of that with crypto. Yeah. I mean, hey, if you now wanted to insert the hopium, it's here. After the development, after the construction and confirmation, but give me some hopium to get me above 86.5. And this is just to get us up above 90K, or at least make a run at 90K, 89.7. Got a lot of work to do. The weekly time frame is it though. And if you go back and see what we had last summer, a lot of similarities. You only had a single HSI reading. You had this really tight one versus last year you had 1, 2. And you don't want to see this thing go back down. So again, we know the level. We know 76.5. That's it for Bitcoin. And I'm going to stick mostly with Bitcoin because so many things are interrelated around it that if Bitcoin's not going to find life and really attract capital is the best way to think about it. If you are not getting expanding allocation to Bitcoin, how is the rest of the crypto market cap going to expand? They're not going to go to other players and not hit Bitcoin. It is still an allocation play or assumption. So base all of your primary assessments for whatever coin it is, that Bitcoin needs to be pointed in the up direction and needs to be kind of accelerating to have money flow into crypto. You've seen what happens listen, Bitcoin is only down it's a nothing overall in the long-term scheme of things. It is a minor 20% correction. And I mean that, it's really nothing for Bitcoin to retrace 20%. That's how it goes. But the rest of the coins, no, they've been probably if they were on a regular exchange, a lot of them would be already failing listing requirements. Yeah. Great to see everybody. What's going on, chat? Yep. Jake, yeah, we can look at that. We can look at all of that. And what's up, Justin? Welcome back. Carthago, Victoria, David, Lawrence, Mitt. What's up from San Diego? Yeah, I love San Diego, man. Really do. Just a little touch too cold for me, but I love it. Rest of you guys, one wheeler. What's going on? I hear what you're saying. I like the comments. We'll see. I'm not expecting anything explosive, not yet. Let's get ourselves above these defined readings. And I think that really helps for all of the crypto narrative and everything, the despair, the FUD, the overexcitement. Look, there are specific spots where we can get excited. And that's stuff like off of bullish patterns with 50, midline 50 breakouts after they stabilize. on a weekly chart. Look, that was the big test we were looking for last summer. And we're back here now again. Are we going to get any more crypto this year? Well, we have to get this kind of a thing resolved. The 50 level. We were almost there in May and got rejected and came all the way back down. So don't be surprised. We could go into that drawn out type of thing. The big event for us though, of when we know we can get really hopeful of acceleration, is above the 50 line. So we're still not there yet. The dot will be official by Sunday night, and then the final piece again. Looking for this weekly breakout above the 50. That could put us, the amplified RSI could take 2 more weeks. So all of this looks like it'll be clear more towards the end of the month, and we get these signals still plenty of time. Could be a repeat of last summer. And then we will see, can it get to 100K again? Yeah, I think it could, but we got to pay for the last year's run. You got to pay the price on that. Rest of it is just, I don't know, guys. I don't know if any of you have added anything to crypto recently. I don't see too many. What's up, Tim Tom? He wants to look at Cardano, SUI, XRP, Ethereum. Here's Cardano, our target, and it was actually hit, scraped last week, was 55 cents. It was as low as 51. And I don't have, I guess it was here at the terminal bar at 50.60 is off of the shark, because we have this shark pattern, no doubt. In any other situation, I would say, hey, great type 2. Why wouldn't we dig in on that? Because 55 was the number. And that happened during the craziness flush. Much like the other charts, this thing has been dragging so long that I can wait a little bit longer to get the absolute clear signal of amplified RSI breaking from 50 or even above 55 to go back to 70 or 80. Not there yet. I am, my inclination is to really think this is still in a larger retracement phase, especially weekly here. And amplified and HSI on the weekly are well under the 50, guys. And that's something that in the last 2 or 3 years, and I do think a lot of it has to relate to focusing so much on crypto specifically, because of the way crypto trades, that I've just come to accept that the real bullish opportunities come when they're above 50, like where we were here last year. We got to wait for the signals, and they're not there yet. So crypto, not yet. I'm keeping an eye open continuously, and I do think Cardano has kind of reemerged this cycle as something that can be considered. It was dismissed for a long time. I mean, I dismissed it at 29 cents, but not anymore. Probably the one that's received the biggest kind of street cred reaffirmation is XRP. I don't have anything though on XRP either after the huge run. I mean, we caught that run back here, and if you remember, we had massive patterns back here. It was beautiful. And this is a good point about trying to line up optimization of HSI amplified to know when a pattern like this is really going to take off. Because that's May 22. That's May 24. 2 years of nothing. And that's really tough to have any money sit and do nothing for 2 years. I mean, it did work out. It worked out. It went through a lot of fear narrative, a lot of FUD in this. But here I wanted to show the monthly. That's what I want to get to. Okay, the monthly really still showed us what was happening. And the monthly didn't bottom that last cycle till July 2022. And then the breakout for that came, it was like March 23. And that's still yet another sign of optimization. I mean, go through a lot of your favorite crypto, and I bet most of them are not showing even HSIs above the 50 on the daily, let alone monthly. So that's, again, slim pickings so far this year across the board. Slim pickings. We came into January with a completely overheated market. Everything pretty much had pumped crazy. Crypto, standard stocks, big tech, they were all in need of a retracement. Okay, but they're not set up yet to where they're telling us they've finished that retracement in the same way we saw it in 2022, and it could be a while. But that's XRP, and where we are now is monthly basis back here retesting the 50 line. And in any regard, I would just look at that and say, okay, I'm willing to miss. If something happens out of the blue on XRP, I'm willing to let it go until this picture gets clearer. It's not clear yet. If we hit this 50 line and get an inflection higher on HSI, then that's something. And there will be plenty of time to get in on that. I don't know. I think we got to help each other out in terms of like the patience factor. I told my crew this morning that just in the chat, I was like, I think I should go on a vacation for like 3 months and just come back. And markets might even be right in the same spot that they are in currently. Don't know. What's up? Great to see everybody today. Come on in. Yep. Still more people coming in. Yeah, we got a late start today. What's up, Greg? Welcome. Yeah, we'll get to some of those stocks. I'm just riffing on the crypto here. Great to see everybody. Mitch Ray in the house. What's up, Mitch? Mitch and I had a great live stream last week. Please check it out and check out Mitch Ray nightly with your full market review, update, forecast. Great to see everybody today. So again, it looks kind of juicy in some respects. I want to kind of highlight my situation on XLM, and I'm early. I know I'm early. You know what? I added some recently down in these lows because we got a dot. We're back down here, and so it's not anywhere close to my original allocation that I did. It's actually about half. And then what I cashed out of in December, it's a fraction of that. And I'm really suspect on this. I started some at like 27, bought a little more at 28, and then some more at 26, and then a bunch more down here at 23. Kind of adding into it, and I'm not pleased with it. And I think it's going to have to do more work. So I'm watching XLM closely, and I've mentioned this as one of the best patterns out there, and it still might not work. I need to see this thing get above the 50 line, and HSI has to turn back up from here if this is going to get out of any kind of movement out of the zone. I'm thinking that this, I'm going to say, is a mistake, but I probably should have waited a little bit more development here. Even to get a bump to 35, something. But crypto is not giving it up. That's the problem. You go to stuff like Solana as well, and 105 was target 2. and holding in a nice fashion. I was concerned. I still am, and I'll leave it there so you know. This low right here, this inflection low under 95 for Solana, that's it. You don't want to see Solana back down there anytime soon. And I would say in the next 30 weeks, if it from that should be it. And we should start the return move off a target too, if this is truly ideal. Now you're 135 right now. Last week we were 95. It was a hell of a move. Hell of a move. Is it a trade? Or should you try to hold on for a swing? I'm still like, you go to the 4 hour time frame. I think you just track these on the 4 hour. And unless they do spectacular things on the 4 hour where they're breaking and making upside progress, just go off the last pattern. Go pattern to pattern. Here's Solana. Okay, deep crab on the 4 hour, real nice. And we're going back to back patterns. Right now we're dealing with this bat at like 131.54 with some dots. I would watch that again. Maybe we get to the hop level 141, but with this kind of action, don't be surprised to see us back down around 117. Maybe next week, maybe over the weekend. I just don't think this is set up yet to do some major rip. Not yet. I mean, here's the weekly. Again, if we wanted to see Solana really assert itself after the big drop to T2, we got to get above 50 here. So that means more green and no screwing around. If this was the return move we're anticipating, looking for, it has to be demonstrative. We haven't seen much demonstrative action in Solana. I'm just watching this. I really think you got to get over that swing. Like, you're still in a downtrend until you can get above 148. So, not much. Those big ones, there's a lot of bearishness up there. Perfect harmonic. I mean, guys, it doesn't get any better than this. And we've been super clear on Solana. First we were looking at 166 and got no confirmation, and it was pretty clear target 2 was the only possibility. And the whole market is, if it's S&P 500 at critical weekly levels like this, if it's crypto target 2s, just know that that's almost as powerful as the completion zone. This whole potential reversal zone from XA to hop level, that's your general zone. We pinpoint within there, but the target 1, target 2, as important in the framework. Is that the end of the reaction? Maybe. I need confirmation though. Couple more. Yeah, I'll get over. Let's jump to stocks in a second. Really quick. Total. It's kind of like Bitcoin. I mean, I think the others index is probably better, but the weekly is trying to put in a dot on the total index. And the whole assumption has to be that this is a lot like last summer and you are early stages, but dot there, just go. HSI confirmation dots here, 2.5, 2.6 trillion. The same as here, which was like 2, and the same as here, which was like 1.2 or 1.1. So you had, this is actually, just to point this out, okay? I know HSI, that's proprietary. I'll give you guys the trial here in a second, but just look at the signals, the dots, 1 and 2 and 3 instances and 4. Okay, that's the 4th instance in the last 2 years. Each one a critical turning point. Maybe August took a few more weeks. You go back, maybe you could say that dot back in January 22, halfway through the bear market. And I'm bringing your attention to this dot for a specific reason. Okay. You had 4 dots. You have 4 dots now. Well, you had 4 because you had a double dot there. So the one dot that really didn't work out was the last one that came in halfway through the bear market. You still got a reaction. And I want to highlight this as on the total index. Thinking about it this way. If the cycle is over, I'm not saying it's over, but if it is over, okay, and it's a situation where it's just a temporary reaction on this oversold reading, we should still see something here. And I can deal with that. I can deal with, can we get into even a 6 or 8 week period where we bounce for now? Because it's like that. Let's take it to the right. All right. A lot of similarities. There we are. Total crypto. Big drawdown. After a dot, no less. Okay. Go dot to dot. All the way back down. Well, is it going to keep going down or are we going to get something? All right. With the dot, an HSI trigger, all of that says, okay, we can at least bounce maybe for a little bit. If it fails, obviously, we know that would be the deeper retracement. And that's the kind of situation I'm looking at right now. Are we stabilizing for a little short-term reaction, or is it something that fails and it's kind of like only a midpoint of where we are? And I think we will get to the right of this dot. It's like that. Still same 30 bar type of thing. We're going to know. We're here currently, and I would look at it the same way. So right now with the dot by Sunday, treat that as like week 0. And then next week is week 1. And we really need to see this thing 3 to 5 bar. 1 second. No say. Anyway, a lot of things have to happen, guys. So sometimes you come into this and you have an expectation mindset. If it's not realized, that's okay. If it's not realized, then we're gonna already know that the scenario is not gonna be fulfilled. That doesn't start till Sunday night. So I'm okay with it's at least good to see the dot, and and that's definitely the end should be the end of the retracement phase. But certain things have to happen now. Like there's no more screwing around. You're not going to be able to make the same assumptions if we have a 10 or 20% retracement from here. This is it. It's kind of what I was saying on Tuesday. Yeah. Last thing about crypto, again, with Bitcoin is still the focus. All right. And the daily patterns that we don't forget, we have these daily bullish crab patterns too. 76.7, 76.5 was the weekly number. It almost did. And here's a good argument of like, is it a type 1 or type 2? Because typically the type 1 should hit the pattern and go to target 1. And that was so close. The software would not kick it out as a pattern, as a type 2 pattern, because it didn't reach it. And I'm there looking at this like, all right, I'm still going to have to wait and see, but it sure does look like a type 2. I mean, I don't want to stretch the rules here, but that's so close. Either way, this thing should be pushing above 89. Really quick, everybody, get over to Harmonic Trader. I didn't even do this yet today, but become a basic member. Okay, access all of the free goodies that we have there. It's going to take you over to sr-analyst.com. All you have to do is, don't worry about that. That's the partner. That's our official partner. Okay, and then just get the free 2-week trial with the software. That's got everything too, by the way. It comes with everything. So send your TradingView username to hpc at sr-analyst.com. You get the 14-day free trial, and we'll set you up, all right? That's where it goes. And I'm thinking about doing a secondary follow-up course, maybe half the time of the original pattern course. And that's probably going to be somewhere, I'm thinking early June, kind of spread it out. But there's a few other areas that I really wanted to touch on. I couldn't. So I'm just putting it together right now, like what exactly would I cover? And you guys, if you're interested or you have requests, hit me up, DM me on Discord with what you guys want to hear more about. I'm open to that, like more subjects, topics, markets you guys want to hear from a harmonic perspective, or even things that you're struggling with. You can DM me in the Discord. So join us over there. Okay, but get with the software because it's an education tool as much as a trading analytical tool. But first, it's an education tool to understand market framework dynamics. Critical. This is how we knew Bitcoin was doing the move to 76.5. And I just got assaulted on social media for when we were back here at 95 or whatever, or even like it was 98. And people are like, no, you're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. All this pattern stuff is garbage. Okay. Not a problem. Ignore it at your own risk. Okay. We know the levels, and the levels give us the framework. That's why we do what we do. It gives us the decision framework where mathematically the patterns, the confirmation explains the situation to us. Bitcoin, 85,000 up or down. Well, we're in a type 1, maybe a type 2 reaction, but we have a bullish pattern. We have bullish confirmation behind us. We still need to hit some targets. So, still up. Before this, yeah, we've been calling for this move down and nailed it. But all within the context of the weekly framework. Okay, weekly time frame. And that's a critical, early but critical weekly confirmation. Bullish, by the way, and it's bullish right here on this week. So just understand that's the framework. These are all based on the signals telling us exactly where to be looking. 83,735, guys, is the critical number going into next week. We will, Tuesday, we will have a show, but, it'll be a 4-day weekend roughly. Be pretty light over the next several days. Take the time. Hopefully, we can come back into a better environment than we had from Christmas to now, to Easter. Yeah. Thanks, David. Appreciate it. David saying for new people or anyone that really wants to see what's going on. Yeah, just look at our streams and look at some of the big trades, especially last year. We just I went on a sick run and laid it all out in advance. So listen, crypto's going to have another crazy phase again. We'll get there. Let's just get through this. I mean, that's the big deal. And we could probably get more intense about crypto for the first time in a while, starting next week. Speaking about crazy, so I do want to, before I jump into individual stocks and a couple other ideas, I don't have too many. We're just not there yet. If in fact, I'm kind of really pounding the table so that people don't miss what potentially might be happening here really soon. The next few weeks is forget about the big drop. I mean, that's been over for about 6 sessions now, 7 sessions. But that drop directly to target 1 This is the S&P 500, the SPY at 482.25 was target one. The low was 481.80, just phenomenal. Recognize that for what it is. It is the end of the reaction. Again, we talked about this at length on Tuesday. More important is I want to be looking for this return trade and understand the type 1 reaction. Okay, typically we want to see it happen within 30 bars. This one took longer. What was it? It was 39, 38 bars. Yep. And then relative to the weekly confirmation that we had up there, it was pretty close. We're bar 24, 25. But that, think of it this way, mission accomplished for the reaction. What we want to see, and what I'm really suspecting between now and June, is we get the return rally, even despite today and even yesterday. I think yesterday kind of deflated some of the bulls. I'm not too concerned about that. What I'm looking for is this super stealth retracement to 561. Be aware that this is going to be a sneaky segment, if you will. And it might take a few more weeks to kind of trudge its way up there. But once we get to that point, that is the start of the type 2. So if we're really concerned about a major bear market, decline, correction, whatever you want to call it, because I'm still saying it's just a big reaction. Step 1, reaction. Off the weekly, perfect target. Okay, took a little bit longer than necessary, but that's how it goes. But then let's see what happens. 561.48, guys. Currently, the S&P 500, the index is 52.80. That would have to get up and rally like another 10% above 5,600. Let me bring up the index. And then if we're going to get bear market, some kind of larger retracement, come on here. Where'd you go? Where's the monthly? There it is. So here's the monthly, the index. It would happen after the retest. This is the framework in action, and it's a look. When you're dealing with harmonic patterns, we have a great group here, but it's a small group, and a lot of this is proprietary terminology, even though it's been around for a while. So especially new folks, I want to review the foundation of expectation for any pattern. This is a perfect monthly deep crab that developed over 2-3 years. There was the completion. There was the confirmation. And then target one at 48.37. Amazing. I mean, just the exact low. The low was 48.35. And then we did the return move. We're 5,300. It could happen all in one bar. And we're not even talking markets. We're just talking mechanics. Price action mechanics, 56.38. That's the stealth retest I want to anticipate and be looking for. It could happen the next 2 or 3 weeks. It could happen into May. But what I'm thinking is that it comes back up pretty quickly. It surprises some of the shorts. They don't get the full big collapse move. Then we do the target 2 move after the full return. We come back here. I would be looking at 56.38. I don't think we'll get reaction on it, confirmation on it. And I'll show you why in a second. But this is the scenario if you were really bearish, okay, and you think a bear market's coming for the next 15 months. I'm not one of them, but within the 1-2 framework, it's a possibility. And it's something where we're currently, the first step is over. We're on that bounce move to 56.38. The other thing that, again, really critical is what happens going into May, finish out the month, and how deep we go down. So what I deploy capital at this point to new long positions or any more than I've already done? No, not until I get the resolution of all of this. Nothing's going to start trending hardcore until we can get that to turn around. And that's on a monthly basis. It's starting to look a lot like 2022, guys, but with bigger patterns behind it, bearish patterns. And the last time we hit this oversold level in the monthly, I think this is the other thing in terms of how to read it, was here. Yeah, was the April 2022. There, we had the breakdown moment into the oversold. And then you continued to go lower for 6 months until you turned it around. That's how far away we are in terms of stocks in general. It is at least hit oversold, but there are things here where it just says, I've got a lot of work to do. And then a price in terms of, just be aware of this, okay? I want to be in front of this, plant this in your seed, that if you're, because so much has happened in the last 4 weeks, that if we get a slam bang and rally up to 56.38 and then it just kind of rolls over, you know why. So I would say we're in that segment right now, a return phase back to 56 and change. We have the weekly that generated HSI as well. So all of this, okay, bodes well for a 4 to 6 week bounce recovery, even if it takes that long. But then the 2 of 2, talk about ideal, and I'll again, the other one is the SOX, which actually went through this perfectly. Okay, did 2 of 2 in the exact same fashion on a monthly chart, would be the kind of the model. And here's SOX, and we talked about SOX, and there's the monthly. This is, now check this out. All right, semiconductors have gone through a nasty bear cycle for the last 15 months. Some are finally catching up, like NVIDIA, what's going on there? But the SOX index did the stealth one too, and it's looking like this. We did pretty hard correction down all the way back here, and it was last summer. There was T1. That was in May. So we did 1 to 2, the type 1 movement from T1 to T1 dollar sign pretty quickly. Down there took not more than 2 or 3 months. But then we did the return move in a month. Hit T2, no confirmation, but it set up the larger T2 crash move, I guess you would call that. This is what I'm looking for in the markets. Okay? That would be if we are in a bear setup move, and the bear would take 15 months, guys, and you would have fantastic rallies in between. It would be something like this. And I just want to be in front of that. So if I'm going to go long or I'm going to try to go short, you understand that we're ping-ponging within this framework, T1, T2, where if we get that setup move, okay, we could have a hard up now and then run into some serious issues, not because of any tariff or anything, but simply because it's a type 2. It's this pattern having to work itself out. Like, let me go back here to the SPY. So check it out. Here's SPY. We're there. We're T1. Just like SOX on the monthly. And we're trying to come back up, slam into the 2. And then all the way back down for the type 2. That's how you do the 1-2. That would be your bear market. You want a bear market scenario, or how do we get there to bear levels with everything going on? Well, for me, bear market would be a T2 run, maybe steeper, but you would have to hit T2, and you would do it like that. Keep that in mind. That's the major thing that's stopping me from doing any more deployment of major longs. I will trade it. If we get great movement intraday, hourly time frames, but mostly right now day trade. Speaking of day trade, Nasdaq's trying to pop its head above 40, plus 45. S&P's like this on the 5-minute, and I want to show you guys this little. Here's something else that this is the index. Okay, some nice patterns on the 5-minute right here, right now. We had talked about the bat pattern. This was on Tuesday, talking about that bat pattern, and I'm using regular trading hours, or TH. I'm essentially just framing out this whole week. 542, it's like 54.20 for the index, and then this we got to target 2, which was at 522, actually 52.20, 52.30-ish, and these are the critical levels. So whichever one we break will dictate larger trend for the rest of the month. We find ourselves back under target 2 here, chances are then we're going to spend a lot more time going lower sooner. I'm not of that opinion. I'm looking for this first move up, and that really into next week. Trying to set this up despite yesterday. Yesterday, again, was a real kick into that possible return theory of saying, come on back up to something like here, and then down move. The whole situation with tariffs and everything going on, it's not even about tariffs. It's about the people that are involved, and those people are going to be around for a while. So they're going to want to kick the markets around to get a desired effect. For us, it's the patterns, it's the levels, because that's the natural buying and selling. And I'm starting to see some early signs, early signals that are critical. For example, we had this exhaustion low here on the hourly HSI dot, and then we have a secondary one, all of that around 520. So again, recent support, the lows of this week are essential going forward. Okay. Otherwise, we will just roll right back down and spend more time going lower. 4800, that 4830 level. Those are all massive numbers. Okay, but everything that we've seen here has to start moving forward. There's the weekly, guys. Weekly here. And maybe a better way to look at that, I'm still saying weekly, monthly levels are critical, but we need to see that thing move week over week higher, not stop. Yeah. I can look at that. What's up? Yeah. Greg wants to look at Broadcom? Well, let's look quickly because the semis have to stop going down. If Nasdaq's going to stabilize here, I think semiconductors, Broadcom, Nvidia, yeah, they have to find some legs. All of that right here, right now, defined by some kind of follow through after last week. We talked about Broadcom around what was it, 150, or 160, something like that. We produced a couple of patterns here. 150-ish was I think that was the bigger number. Hold on, sorry about that. And the weekly, for sure, with this oversold HSI, is an absolute limit. Do not want to see that violated, because our assumption is that Broadcom is still maintaining this uptrend. Doesn't look like it, but that's still the assumption that, hey, no matter how bad it gets, all right, this stock, this company continues to grow. And we look at the last, how many signals? 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the last 6 years. So once a year on the weekly chart, rather significant events. Now, not to say you don't have some corresponding retest, follow through action, even some dots. You start the process of looking and saying, okay, Broadcom was 250, got down to 140. Where exactly should I pinpoint this? And I would say retesting this candle low, 140-ish, 150-ish, that's not crazy. But underneath that, or if we don't put in a few more green weeks from here, yeah, then you have a problem. I would say that's not the likely outcome. I'm really thinking that Broadcom is one of those. I think it's Nvidia before, really should be on par with Nvidia. So potential there, yeah. Here's Nvidia, similar situation, although the weekly didn't get oversold. The daily has this pattern, he overran it, but it's still within the framework of this bat pattern. Around 93 is the hop, 106, no confirmation, doesn't look real nice, but the levels are pretty clear. I would want to see that thing stabilize and continue. Where's the weekly? Weekly's got to get above the 50 on these. So not in the best situation, guys. Not yet, at least. But those are two of the big ones. I got to say that Intel is looking like garbage and really needs to do something down here. Scraping 19, you're back at the hop level. I'm surprised it's not picking its head up, and you have a massive shark with some slightly lower numbers. So all of this is just not constructive. It could be a while trying to ride out some kind of recovery, and you guys know that I'm underwater at 30 on this, and I've been for a while. Soon to become a long-term capital loss if I don't, do something about it. I thought we were close. This monthly here above the 50 level on Intel, big deal. But it still would say we got to see progress next month. We're kind of like if you go back to 2021, same deal. You're early, a couple months early. Yeah, I'm still there. Look, the Sox thing did its one too. I still got to believe that Nvidia and Broadcom, okay, despite the mania, and that looks like a mania chart, sure, but so did the 2021 run. Let's do it this way. That's 2021. Think of it that way. And split adjusted, it was 3 to 30, back down to 12. So, all right. That was quite a haircut. This is still Nvidia. Another way to look at it. Where are we? 382-ish? 382 is there. 50% level is a little bit lower, like 85. We were there in the aftermarket. $50 is $80. If you want a problem with Nvidia, it's under $80. It really is. Ever since the daily type 2 crab pattern from the end of last year, remember that? And even that was hard to believe, but it was perfect type 1, type 2, failed secondary high, and there was even like a tertiary pivot that then sent it down to T2. That's the thing of where a pattern really plays out and it gets 1, 2, and it hits the T2 level and some reaction, but then back down, breaks the T2. That's when you get a further breakdown. The fact that at least software is kicking out a bullish pattern, I do not want to ignore this. And it's Nvidia. So, think of it this way. It's like you have a 40% correction off the all-time high in the favorite stock of the last 5 years. Is it going out of business? Is it overplayed, overvalued? Is it about to be dethroned. Not so fast. There's so many of these. I want to show you guys this other one, SMCI, which was a super high flyer. Okay. And now coming down for the perfect type 2, but that's all the way back down here. A lot lower, under 20. This is a big semi player. And when you look, that thing went parabolic. Yet another reason why your semis are just lagging. They're really dragging the techs down. That's the problem. The whole tech market is getting dragged by semis. Go to ASML. This is one that we tried this earlier last year off the shark, and then the whole dragging sideways thing, where it was time to scratch because of that red line. We ran into the counter HSI, and I was thinking, yeah, we were up here at 750-ish, and I was like, I think we could go back to 677. What happened? A full hop test. Now, massive rebound yesterday or 2 days ago. That's not the deal. The deal is going to be back under this 550 area. And yet another major player that needs to prove a few things. And there's ASML on the weekly. Pretty remarkable. Massive butterfly. Okay. This is the bigger situation off of the reaction HSI, basically 627. We're going to get a dot, but we need another bullish week. That's a major semi player too. That's ASML. It's like a second tier to NVIDIA, KLAC, Applied Materials. Those are really that handful of stocks really dictating most of NASDAQ. I think the rest of it is okay. And these corrections, Amazon and Meta should be embraced. But to get the market moving, you need this stuff to bottom out. Confirm. There's KLAC at the bottom end of the trend line. You need to see that thing start the continuation move. It's not. Hasn't. Close. Couple more. Yeah, look, Intel, I'm not too concerned about it, but would I add more? I mean, I'm tempted, but boy, it's just not giving me what I want to see. You guys want to look at Target? And here's another one. All right, Target, massive retailer, amazing 65+% off the all-time high. Here's a type 2, guys. What is it missing? What is it missing? No confirmation yet. Weekly, trying to give you an inflection for the first time since the last oversold reading was back in a year ago, April. No coincidence. But need to see this thing stabilize, get out of the zone, and you're weeks away. But it is an example of yet another pattern, massive pattern, that if I saw that, if I turned off all the news, or if it was a different time, I would say, wow, that's a huge opportunity. It's a massive opportunity developing. But this is the kind of opportunity that will take months to develop and probably a year or two to get major progress. Understand that that's where you are. These situations are great. They're going to take time. You go to what was the other one? Dell and Target. Well, sorry. What was it? It just escaped me. I'll come back to it. Either way, I like it, but needs confirmation, and there's no reason not to wait. Not to wait for that. Couple more. What do you guys got? $55. Who said that? What's up, One Wheeler? He's saying a gap on SPX at 55.75. I think so. I don't know. A lot of people are calling for the crash. A lot of people are calling for a bear market, and that it's all 1929 again. Um, I really have a tough time doing that. I have a tough time going to that level. It's been a challenge always in the markets where, oh, okay, it's another 1929. I mean, that's what they said about 1987. And 87 took about, I don't know, a month to get over. And then you were back onto the greatest bull market of all time, quite frankly. Yeah, let's really quick. I got to show you guys gold. We got to take a quick look at gold. Look at this. What did I say Tuesday? I mean, this is just astounding. Look at this action on Tuesday. Since Tuesday, guys. We're talking 100, 150 points higher. We hit 3,400 now, all the way up there. So what's going to happen? Remember, what was the target all along? 3,350. We're there now. And what's crazy is that we were trading 2,700 January 1st. And this isn't even the bullish season for gold. What's going on? I mean, what would drive gold to do this kind of move? Because we were financial crisis, we're all kinds of war, interest rate, real estate debacles, everything. What's going to create this? Clean up the chart. I mean, look at that. And then you go to the monthly, guys, we're getting to a real parabolic situation. Just by visually or quarterly chart, you're starting to get to a point of being ridiculous. So where does that go? There's your quarterly chart, all-time history of gold. And what does it say about prior historic time periods? What are the possibilities for gold? Quarterly chart. Well, let's go off the last cycle for starters. Okay, all-time cycle, which I think is a great way to put the framework into targeting what are the possibilities. But the 1618 all-time was like 2950, 3000. It's just ignored it. And so even if that was like a 1902 overspill, it would be like there, maybe a little bit higher. And then if we go extreme from there, that's how we get to 4,200. And I really think we're already getting those signs. 191, the 1902, guys, that's 3330. So consider this, what we just hit, a major event against the whole history of the bear market from late 70s, 1980 down into the low, the dot-com low. I mean, incredible. Incredible. So I want to know where we go from here. And I would think let's focus next week, because if we're going to take out this next segment, it's going to happen quickly. That's where, the spike happens in 1 or 2 bars. And that for me would be the definition of a parabolic move. It would be all-time minimum 2618. 314 is typically what you see in a parabolic move. And that's like 4,800. And if we're at 48, let's call it 5. That's where we are. You guys know I've been in front of this gold thing since really 2100, 2200, saying something really unusual, uncanny is up. That's how we get there. Today was huge, hitting that 3330, 3350 level. And I don't look, I'm if we got another pullback like we had here, then we'd be lucky. It really just for gold to be doing this, at what point does it run out and get exhausted? I don't think that is anytime soon until we see gets well above 4,000. That's how crazy this is. Maybe we have a something like this, maybe back down 3,100, 3,200, something like that. I don't see this under 3,000 again. In fact, I would see it probably above 4,000 before we see it under 3,000 again. It's remarkable. Remarkable stuff. It really is just in the last 6 months that this has taken on the kind of aggressive parabolic nature. Silver, yeah, I don't know. Silver is still all about getting above 30 SLVs like this. And I think, gold's kind of becoming really, hate to say it, the Bitcoin of metals, where there's really the main focus of all precious metals is just gold. You could go palladium, you could go silver, you go platinum, but really gold's getting the bid. Silver above $32 is gone, and I'm sure it'll play catch up. But what would you rather? Where's the action? It's obvious. It's gold. Yeah. Yeah. I look, the gold bugs are having their year and their decade. The gold bugs that always talked about gold going to 5,000, it's happening. Look at like Barrick Gold here. The stocks are not, which is the interesting thing. Stocks are up, but they're not trading like tech stocks. And Barrick, nice move, 15 to 20, but that's really not following the price of gold. You would think that Barrick should be trading close to all-time highs. And it could see this turnaround. You do like stuff like Barrick here, where technically it's stabilized. Long-term chart looks like that. But you have to get out of this base. You have to get well above 25. All-time high on Barrick is like 50. But at what point? What point does the price of gold finally take up and bring up the the market caps of these companies? Here's AU, Anglo Ashanti. Had some great, look at that, great patterns, monthly charts, guys. And there's some higher targets, but still nowhere near all-time highs. What are we missing? Should we be looking at this? Even other miners like, so here's Freeport-McMoRan, FCX. They're more copper and other stuff. Those are, not the same. Not the same. So looks like a real gold play on the price, speculation. You're not seeing it in the miners yet. And even like those junior miners, the nuggets, finally maybe starting to get out of here, but that's the 2X weekly starting to move. But I'm telling you, the gold play is, if gold just keeps going, at some point these side plays are going to start getting in action, like serious action. I'm impressed. What was the other one? Was it Rio Tinto? No. Hold on. Yeah, Rio Tinto back at new lows almost. Type 1 already finished. 2 back at 53. Wasn't there something on Tinto down here? No. They just haven't, look, these type of mineral stocks are not moving. But the gold price is, GLD or PAX G, the crypto, that's been amazing. Yeah. AEM, I've seen that cross. AEM. Eagle Mines. Okay, that's what it should looks like. AEM. That would be my expectation of what gold miners, real gold mining stocks would look like. Maybe at all-time new highs or just basically off of the trailing of the all-time high. Yeah, it's a nice chart. Nice chart, but do nothing at 30 down here from 2013, 2015. Again, just back in 2022, you were a meager, 30% higher from the decade low. That's where we're at. Nasdaq starting to make a move. S&P, guys, a little jump here. This is what we want. Come on, let's finish the day with a pretty smooth, positive finish here. Let's make this whole trend line great again. Make the S&P 500 great again with just being something like that. All right, I'm not in the freak out hysteria stage. Seriously, I'm looking for opportunities. I don't see a heck of a lot just yet. I need to confirm. But I want to be patient down here with all of this. Let me see the 5-minute chart. There's S&P. Yeah, we had that deep crab. Did we got the 2? Yeah, I forgot to show the futures chart. 5287. That's a massive number, and that lines up. I said that with the index. Essentially, yesterday's low, despite as crazy as it was, that has to be it. I think that was fairly manufactured with like a non-news event day, light volume. Yeah. Eye on that. I mean, again, why am I looking at that? And I'm flipping between these. We need to see allocation start happening, like money flowing back into these areas to the point where it's overwhelmingly obvious. There's futures here. We did retest that last dot. That was, I guess we could bump it to 5,300 now. I mean, really, we should not be seeing lower prices going forward if we're going to make progress. If this is capitulation, I think it was. We're on the return move to go back, retest some bigger numbers, which I think we are, which is 5620. It's not a far distance from where we are. Look, just get to like here. Go from here to there. And you get yourself a type 2 on the monthly. I think we can do that. A little upside bias from here, literally from here. Like not to take out 52, what's that, 52.55-ish? And we do something like this. The rest of it, things like crude oil, guys, every day that this is, I don't know, under 70, under 65, we rebounded following the big capitulation. But again, I think the fact that crude oil down here will destroy the inflation numbers. Absolutely destroy it. And again, the monthly chart is like this, where you have, if we're right about this, and this is a type 2 return, meaning we've got to retest some historic patterns. All right, that's lower. And I think anything in terms of crude oil with finally breaking down is first signs that, hey, we're going to see it repriced. When crude oil getting repriced first starts to getting under 50, and then we go lower. Rates drop. That's how markets then can get allocation back. So S&P, yeah. Right now, up 50. Nasdaq's up 115, 18.5. These are big numbers. So kind of a sleepy Thursday. Nothing going on tomorrow. But big in terms of where we are exactly in the charts to make that recovery now. I hope hype, cough, cough, I hope hype can be returned here. I agree with you. What's up, Hogelia? Wants to look at Valet? Sure. That's from your neck of the woods. like this. I think, listen, it's not a bad idea to look at these. These are some old miners, and there's Valet. Perfect. I mean, really nice patterns down there. Not a bad thought either, but this is our proposition right now, guys. Okay, we could try to go look at stuff like this. Yes, they have patterns, and some of them are big ones, or we go to things like Meta, or Amazon, weekly HSI, triggering now. So, yeah, this will be official by the close, or you go the daily. Not the prettiest of patterns, but you're down here looking at this zone. All right, hop at 522. You're underneath that hop, watching closely. Is that a bullish continuation? Doesn't look like it so far, but you have a clear pattern there. I'm going to watch that closely. Same with Amazon. Already long, and I'm long at higher prices, and that's okay. All right, but what I'm thinking is this is the correction of the swing. Can we get the return move to start moving again? That's the dailies, the shark down here. You know, again, I have to see more of this develop. Hold on. That takes us into next week. That takes us, like this kind of stuff takes us into next month. So I'm not going to do anything until that gets clearer. This retracement's over, but it's fairly interesting. One other one, last one I want to talk about is Baba. And Baba did a massive move. We talked about this around 80. Okay. Came up, did a big reaction. There's a weekly patterns. There's even monthly patterns that were really drawn out here. And maybe that's the first reaction. Back down at 109, we were literally $95 just a couple of days ago or last week. I'll start looking at something like this because it's another massive pattern coming for a retest against the bigger zone. You know, maybe it's like 100, roughly like 90 to 100, but I'll look at this crab as well. I mean, there are opportunities here. They just need to give us some confirmation against these levels. And I think it'll feel like an eternity. You know, it's been because we came into 2025 ready to continue what had really heated up towards the end of the fourth quarter, and it's just not happening, and so be it. But I'll stick by the major patterns. I'll stay with them. Look for the confirmation signs because a lot of them are going to generate that. Let's go really quick. What was that? Netflix was up there. Netflix was Netflix. I'll come back to that. Yeah, I think that's it though. I think that is we're in that kind of pause retracement phase. No, it's more. It's retrenchment. We were looking for retracement the whole time. It went deeper. The only consideration for all of this stuff, are we doing something larger than a retrenchment? Like, is Nvidia going to collapse and the whole long-term uptrend going to fall apart under $93? Are you going to lose the trend? This type of thing. All right, with Nvidia, look at that. There's its all-time history. Everyone talked about Nvidia, and you know that was one of the ones people talked about early 2000s. Okay, but now that looks super parabolic. How much do we give it? Is this going to come all the way back down and do like a 2022 where it does a 618? Because that's how you get down to 65. Someone said 65 earlier. Are we looking at a bigger 618 retracement? And this could be for all of them. Okay, that's our argument going into the summer here, guys. We play this out. We did the 382s. We did the big weekly, monthly retracements. All right. Is that going to be more? That's what we're trying to figure out. And that doesn't even, we'll think about it next week. For now, we're still in that recovery phase. Yep. Bounce back. This is the big one. Leave it here. SPY. All right. If you're in doubt of where the market's going, just follow the SPY, pull it on the weekly. That's your big chart. Okay. And we're going to do this micro return move for the next 2 or 3 weeks up to 561. Then we will see. Okay. Listen, you guys have any other questions? Hit me up over on the Discord. We got to give us into next week, but we're out of time on all of this, of giving this any more issues. So if you guys hook up with me over there on the Discord over the weekend, I'm happy to hook you guys up with those video from our course, answer any questions. But the rest, everyone else, get over to harmonictrader.com. Okay, it's all there. 2-week free trial. And send your TradingView username to hpc@sr-analyst. Everyone, enjoy the day off tomorrow. Have a great holiday, and we'll be back on Tuesday. So hit subscribe to get the notification. And until then, enjoy yourself. We'll catch you next week. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great one, and go get them.